Let me tell you about the day I almost gave up. Not the day I thought about giving up. Not the day I said, "Oh, this is hard, maybe tomorrow." No, the day I had my hand on the door. The day I had already written the email in my head. The day I was one click, one phone call, one sentence away from walking away from something I had given 3 years of my life to. And I didn't. But let me start at the beginning. Because the beginning is not where you think it is. The beginning is not the day I failed. The beginning is not the day I got rejected. The beginning is a Tuesday. An ordinary Tuesday, 3 years before that night. I was sitting in a coffee shop, the kind with mismatched chairs and a cat that belonged to the owner, but acted like it owned the universe. And I was holding an envelope. You know the feeling of holding an envelope that might change your life. The thin ones are bad news, everyone knows that. This one was thick. Cream-colored. It felt important in my hands, like it had mass, like it was pulling me toward the floor. And inside was a letter that said, "We are pleased to inform you." I got in. Graduate school. Philosophy department. A chance to spend 3 years thinking and reading and writing about the only question that had ever kept me up at night. Why do people believe what they believe? Not what they know. What they believe. The stuff that has no proof. The stuff they would die for, even though they can't show you a single piece of evidence that would hold up in court. That was my question. And they said yes. I called my mother. She screamed. Actually screamed. I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She said, "I always knew it. I always knew you would." Which was a lie. She had spent most of my childhood worried that I read too much and talked too little, but I loved her for saying it anyway. So I packed my life into boxes. I drove 800 miles to a town I had never seen. I found an apartment with radiators that clanked all winter and a landlord who said, "You get used to the noise," which is landlord for, "I'm never fixing it." And I started. The first year was magic. I mean that. Actual magic. I would walk into the library, the old library, the one that smelled like dust and ambition, and I would pull books off the shelves and just read. 4 hours. 4 whole days. I forgot to eat. I forgot to call people back. I forgot that there was a world outside that had things like rent and groceries and sleep. I was 24 years old, and I felt like I had been given permission to do the only thing I had ever been good at, asking questions, and not stopping until I found a better question. My advisor was a woman named Dr. Evelyn Cross. She was 63 years old, wore the same black cardigan every single day, and had a reputation for being impossible to please. Students warned me about her. "She'll rip your draft apart," they said. "She doesn't believe in encouragement." But here's the thing about Dr. Cross. She never lied to me. Not once. When my work was lazy, she said it was lazy. When my argument was thin, she said, "This is thin, and you know it." But when I wrote something good, really good, she would just nod. Once, just once, she said, "That's interesting." And I rode that high for 3 weeks. That was year 1. Year 2 started with a crack. Not a big one. A hairline fracture. The kind you don't notice until one day you look at the windshield and realize the crack has been there for months, and now it's too late to stop it from spreading. It happened in a seminar room. Tuesday afternoon. 14 students sitting in a circle, all of us pretending we had done the reading. I had done the reading. I had done extra reading. I had highlighted things and written notes in the margins and come up with a question I thought was brilliant. The professor called on me. I asked my question. And the room went quiet. Not the good quiet. Not the wow, that's profound quiet. The other quiet. The no one knows what you're talking about quiet. The did you even read the same assignment quiet. And then a woman across the circle, her name was Maya. She was brilliant and she knew it. She said, I don't think that's what the author meant at all. And she was right. She was completely right. I had misread the central argument. Not a small misreading. A fundamental one. I had built my question on a foundation that didn't exist. The author was saying the opposite of what I thought. And I had stood up in front of 14 people and announced my misunderstanding like it was a discovery. I laughed. I made a joke. I said, well, back to the drawing board. Everyone laughed with me, the way people laugh when they are relieved it's not them. But inside, something shifted. A small voice that I had never heard before said, what if you don't know what you're talking about? I pushed the voice away. I told myself it was one mistake. One misreading. It happens. I went back to my apartment. I reread the chapter. I saw my error. I corrected it. Done. Over. But the voice didn't go away. It got quieter, but it didn't leave. And over the next few months, it started to grow. Every time I sat down to write, it whispered, what if you're wrong again? Every time I raised my hand in class, it whispered, what if everyone can see through you? Every time my advisor nodded and said, that's interesting, the voice said, she doesn't mean it. She's just being polite. She's waiting for you to fail, so she can finally say I told you so. By the middle of year 2, I had stopped raising my hand. I had stopped going to office hours. I sat in the back of seminar rooms and took notes and said nothing. I told myself I was being humble. I told myself I was listening more than I talked. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I was scared. I was scared that the first year had been a fluke. That I had fooled everyone. That I had written a good application essay, but I wasn't a good writer. That I had read the right books, but I didn't actually understand them. That I was, in the cruelest word in the English language, a fraud. There's a name for this. Psychologists call it imposter syndrome. But naming it doesn't make it go away. Saying I have imposter syndrome is like saying I have wet feet while standing in the ocean. It's not a diagnosis. It's just a description of where you are. By the end of year 2, I was standing in the ocean up to my neck. And then year 3 began. Year 3 was supposed to be the year I wrote my thesis. 150 pages. Original argument. Something that would make Dr. Cross nod and say, "That's interesting," one more time, but this time she would mean it in a bigger way. This time she would mean, "You did it. You actually did it." I had my topic. I had my outline. I had my sources. I had 3 years of notes and half-written paragraphs and diagrams that made sense only to me. I had everything I needed except one thing, the belief that I could actually do it. I started writing in September. By October, I had 30 pages. By November, I had deleted 25 of them. By December, I was staring at 5 pages that I didn't even like, and the cursor was blinking, and the voice was shouting, "You have nothing. You have always had nothing. You just took 3 years to figure it out." December is dark where I lived. The sun set at 4:30. The radiators clanked. The cat that belonged to the universe, the coffee shop cat, had died, and the coffee shop felt empty without her, and I stopped going. I stayed in my apartment. I wrote nothing. I stared at walls. I ordered food I didn't want and ate it without tasting it. I stopped calling my mother because I didn't know what to say. "How's the thesis?" she would ask. And I would say, "Fine," which is a 4-letter word for "I'm drowning." By January, I had a draft. I use that word loosely. It was 47 pages of disconnected thoughts, bad arguments, and sentences that stopped halfway through because even I didn't know how to finish them. I sent it to Dr. Cross. She took a week to read it. A week where I checked my email every 3 minutes. A week where I slept 4 hours a night and spent the other 20 pacing. When her email came, I opened it with my eyes half closed, like I was opening a door to a room I knew would be on fire. "Dear my name," she wrote. "Thank you for sending this. Let's talk on Tuesday. There's work to do." That was it. There's work to do. Not "this is terrible." Not "you should quit." Not even "I'm disappointed." Just, "there's work to do." But here's what my brain heard: "You failed. You wasted my time. You wasted 3 years. You are not a philosopher. You are not a writer. You are a person who reads books and pretends to understand them." Tuesday came. I went to her office. She had the draft on her desk, covered in red ink, not angry red, just precise red. She had written questions in the margins. "Why does this matter? What's your evidence for this claim? I don't follow this sentence. This paragraph contradicts page 10. We talked for an hour. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult me. She just asked questions. Hard questions. The kind of questions I should have been asking myself. And by the end of the hour, I understood something. She wasn't trying to tear me down. She was trying to build me up. But building hurts. Anyone who tells you different has never built anything that lasted. I went home. I rewrote the first chapter. Then the second. Then the third. By February, I had 70 pages. By March, I had 90. By April, I had 110. And I hated every single one of them. Not because they were bad. I couldn't tell if they were bad anymore. I had read them so many times that the words had stopped being words. They were just shapes on a page. Black marks on white space. I had lost the ability to judge my own work. I didn't know if I had written something brilliant or something stupid. I didn't know if I was one draft away from finishing or if I would be rewriting forever. And that's when I almost gave up. Let me set the scene for you. It's April 15th. I remember the date because it was the day after my mother's birthday, and I had forgotten to call her. I am sitting at my desk. The desk is a piece of garbage I bought from a church sale for $40. It has a stain that looks like coffee, but might be something worse. On the desk is my laptop. On the laptop is my thesis. 123 pages of words that I no longer believe in. The clock on the laptop says 2:14 in the morning. But it might as well be the end of time. There is no difference between 2:14 a.m. and forever when you're alone in an apartment with radiators that clank and a thesis that won't cooperate. I have just finished reading the entire draft from beginning to end. And I have come to a conclusion: it's nonsense. Not just bad. Nonsense. The argument doesn't hold together. The evidence is thin. The writing is flat. The conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. Any first-year student with half an education could tear this apart in an afternoon. And I am supposed to defend this in front of a committee. I am supposed to stand up in a room full of people who have devoted their lives to clear thinking and say, "Here is my contribution to human knowledge." I would be laughed out of the building. I would be remembered as the worst thesis in the department's history. People would tell stories about me. "Remember that student who thought she was a philosopher," they would say. 43 pages of absolute garbage. I push back from the desk. The chair wheels squeak. I walk to the kitchen. My phone is on the counter. I pick it up. And I stare at it. Here's what I'm thinking: I can end this tonight. Not my life. My thesis. My academic career. I can send one email to Dr. Cross. I can write, "I'm withdrawing. I can't finish this. Thank you for your time." And then I can go to sleep. And when I wake up, it will be over. No more thesis. No more deadlines. No more Dr. Cross. No more voice in my head telling me I'm a fraud, because I will have proven that I'm a fraud. I will have made the voice true. But at least it will be over. I open my email. I start typing. Dear Dr. Cross. That's as far as I get. My thumb is hovering over the keyboard. I can see the rest of the email in my head. I'm withdrawing. 4 words. That's all it would take. 4 words and a click. and I would be free. But I don't type them. I don't type them because my eyes catch something on the fridge. It's a post-it note. Yellow. Faded. The edges are curled up like they've been there for years. And written on it, in my mother's handwriting, messy, left slanted, the handwriting of someone who never learned to type, are 6 words. Done is better than perfect. I stare at this post-it note. I have stared at it 1,000 times. It's been on that fridge since the day I moved in. My mother stuck it there after helping me carry boxes up 3 flights of stairs. I remember her saying, "Just don't stop. That's the only rule. Just don't stop." And now here I am, about to stop. I think about what stopping actually means. It doesn't just mean abandoning a thesis. It means abandoning the person who started the thesis. The person who drove 800 miles with boxes full of books. The person who sat in a coffee shop with a cat and opened an envelope that said, "We are pleased to inform you." The person who believed, actually believed, that she had something to say. If I send that email, I am telling that person that she was wrong to try. That she was fooling herself. That the voice in her head was right all along. And I realized something, standing in my kitchen at 2:14 in the morning, holding a phone with an unfinished email. I don't want to be right about this. I want the voice to be wrong. So I do something stupid. So I write another one. I'm scared that my thesis is garbage and that everyone will see through me. Another one. Because that's it. That's the core. That's the sentence I've been trying to write for 3 years. Not the fancy version. Not the academic version. The simple version. Belief isn't about evidence. It's about identity. Until the cursor stops blinking and starts moving. Until the day you almost gave up becomes the day you almost gave up but didn't. Thank you.